We are rolling.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Creative Businessmen. Today we have Pat Dortch on the show with us. So this is a special one for me because Pat's a good friend and a very talented actor. I look up to this guy. And if you guys like it, be sure to like and subscribe. And Pat, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, great. I'm Pat Dortch, working actor, acting coach at the Actors Lab in Charlotte. I've been doing this for, 7 or 8 years now. And, things are going great.
Awesome. So I studied with Pat, with you for, I guess, almost 5 years at the Actors Lab.
Yeah.
I studied with you in the master class and then under you.
That's right. We were together in the
class
class for a while, yeah.
So, yeah, you've been at it a lot longer than I have, so, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, be sure to look him up because Pat's a really talented and successful actor in North Carolina, and we can all learn a lot from him, or everyone that's in that industry.
Well, thanks, Neil. God, I'm
Yeah.
blushing now.
You also just finished a pilot.
Yeah, sure did. We've got Limbo is complete, and it's been on the festival circuit. Started at festivals last, I guess would have been October, but of course everything's on hold now. But they've moved some festivals online, and just in the pitching phase now, trying to see if we can get some interest behind it. A couple of my guys are on. I don't know if you've seen Outer Banks on Netflix, but a couple of the guys are on that. Drew Starkey plays Rafe, and then my friend Gary Weeks is on there as well. He plays JJ's dad. And it's great because Gary's like the nicest guy in the world. He's an absolute ass on the show. But it couldn't happen to a couple of better guys. They were phenomenal to work with on Limbo, and I'm really happy they're killing it. So
That's awesome. Yes, I think I'm 3 or 4 episodes deep into it. I actually really like it.
Yeah.
So
I know it turned out great.
And I don't binge watch TV. I don't do I just don't. And I was like, oh, I gotta turn this off.
Yeah.
So I've had to stop myself from doing it because you can really they flow really well. So.
Yeah, you can get sucked in. That one in Ozark.
That's so good.
Ozark's so good.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I got a couple buddies on that too, and it's just, it's funny because you're rooting for people that are really low life, and you're like, man, I hope he gets through this. It's like you're picking the least evil. It's great. I love it.
You're thinking about his bank account, his career.
Yeah.
I hope this guy doesn't get killed too fast.
That's right.
But that's the funny thing about acting, though, is we play roles that we don't like sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, we enjoy the role, but we don't like the character.
Yeah, they're often the best roles to play.
Yeah.
They're the most interesting. They let you go places that you know you can't in real life, and
Or you wouldn't want to.
Right. And it's funny, while you're playing the character, if you judge the character, you're dead. It's like at no point can you get judgmental over the evil guy you're playing. You have to kind of do that what if game.
Right.
What if I were in these circumstances? How would it turn me out?
Yeah.
Well, people do that, I guess, anyway. Like really bad people, they create their own narratives to, I guess, to make an excuse for their behavior, and it's sort of the same thing as
acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
To justify their existence.
Yeah.
Art imitating life and all that.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. So you did a shoot one time or a recording. I can't remember which. I'm terrible with the vernacular when it comes to the acting, and it's really funny about a Twinkie. What was the actor?
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The monologue for
From, what is it?
It's Woody Harrelson.
Woody
It's
Harrelson.
the zombie movie.
Right.
So the whole reason I bring up Woody, that's the name I was looking for, Woody Harrelson. So his father was a convicted killer or murderer or whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So the thing is,
It's like a hitman?
Yeah, hitman. Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. So Woody got to play a hitman in several things, and a killer, a murderer. And I remember watching something a long time ago. I think this was in the 90s and the early 2000s, but him talking about his father and him share the same birthday, and like he was just talking about how he had to put himself in this mindset and was wondering if that was what his father was thinking at the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so when you guys were just talking about that, like trying to put yourself into that state, I wonder how that affected Woody, considering that's what his father was really doing.
I guess he had an advantage.
Well, he visited his dad in prison once a year, supposedly, so I'm assuming on their birthday.
That's
I don't
crazy.
know. But I wonder, was he asking him for tips? Like, well, what was your mindset on this, Dad?
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is he didn't have far to go to I guess, improve upon what his dad had done.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the
To
final
do
stroke
better
for
than
his
his
dad
dad.
was he murdered a federal judge, I think, was the final.
Wow,
That's the one they got him
That's
for, yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't
They were
believe I didn't
okay
know
with it up to there. It was
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Last
That was
straw.
where they drew
now
the
you
line.
crossed the line.
He had some really hotshot attorney that got him off on every single case before that, but the federal judge was the one they were.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
I segue, but the whole point of that was the mindset that you got to get yourself into, maybe the role you
Yeah.
don't like. So I'm sure Woody didn't like that about his father, but he had to put himself in his shoes, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting.
It'd probably be painful to do that type
I
of
would
role
think so.
if you've been through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows?
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, Pat, when did you get into like acting and that kind of stuff?
I was in, growing up, I was in plays and stuff constantly, and I was in bands and sang, and really got into acting in high school. As a matter of fact, I was Kaniki in Greece, and two of the guys that I was in Greece with are both still working actors. Cullen Douglas, good friend of mine, he's out in L.A. and he's in everything. He's killing it. And Todd Truly, dear friend of mine, he was first couple seasons of Nashville. He was one of the main characters, and he's fantastic. We keep up. So the three of us are still, or I was late to the game actually, because I took a break for 20 some odd years, and thought I had to get a real job, and came to it late. But yeah, the three of us still connect and keep up with each other. So after high school, I was in bands through college. I was in Nashville, Tennessee.
You got to share the names of your bands, too.
Oh yeah, man. Let's see. I was in Eat This Alien and Juanita's Lover. Louie and the Soul Screamers.
Nice.
Yeah, man. It was great. But you know, in that you can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody in a band in Nashville. So you know, but that I was in bands through college and out of college for a couple years, still in bands. And then from there, my wife and I went to get married, and I literally thought I needed to find something to do for a real job,
Yeah.
quote unquote. Which she warned me against, to her benefit to this day. She was like,
that's
"Don't do
cool.
that." She's like, "I didn't marry you because you were, you know, an insurance guy. I married you because you're you." And it took me 23 years to come around to realizing that she was right. I'm a little hard-headed, but we actually had a couple businesses along the way and did great, and then did not so great, and that was probably, honestly, one of the best things that happened to me was not doing well on my last business and kind of hitting rock bottom.
Well, since we are the creative businessmen, we like to talk about entrepreneurship and
Oh, I know.
all that. Yeah. So it is interesting that you've always been an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
even when you had a quote real job, it was your own business.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was in bands, I was selling water filters because you couldn't just go to the store and buy water filters back then. I'm old. So
Right there behind you.
So you couldn't go just buy water filters, you know. So
Yeah.
I was selling water filters while I was in bands and making some money that way. And then I actually moved to Charlotte from Nashville to run a futon shop, and then bought out my brother's partner, and we grew the futon shop and killed it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We had 3 locations and just making, it was sick. And then from there, I started manufacturing furniture. My dad was in construction. We all worked construction when we were little. And so I always had a woodworking background, and made furniture for a while, and then just absolutely lost my ass. It was
Now when you were making furniture, you actually you developed like a what would
it
you
was
call
hardware.
it? Yeah, hardware device.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I developed hardware that allowed furniture to break down.
but you couldn't patent it, right?
No,
That's what got you.
That's part of what hurt.
Yeah.
Well, that and we were high end, and once the housing market crashed, people weren't buying high end custom stuff.
Right.
And I kept it going too long, probably. Basically, I figured out how to make $1 million in furniture, and it cost me $2 million to do it. But it was, I think it was that made me. I was depressed. I was a mess. It's funny, but a year prior to, or maybe 6 months prior to finally calling it on the furniture company, a good friend of mine called me, and the TED Talks were coming to Queens, and he said, hey, listen, he was actually the set designer on 90210 back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he said, we need a brain. I need a 9-foot brain that we can project images off of. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. So we designed and upholstered, essentially built a upholstered brain.
That's awesome.
And they hung it up above the stage at Queens, and they projected images off of it during the TED Talks.
Nice.
And during the TED Talks, they brought in a guy named J.D. Lewis, who at the time was in the middle of a 12-month trek around the world where he visited 12 countries and did humanitarian work with his 2 sons during that time. And while he was speaking, he said, I'm from L.A. I actually am an acting coach in Charlotte. And he said it kind of just off the cuff, and then he kept on with this thing. And when I shut everything down, for some reason, that's the first thing I thought of was, as I'm sitting there depressed as crap, I was like, I got to find this J.D. Lewis guy. I need to take some acting class. I got to get my creative side back so that I don't go crazy.
Right, yeah. Shout out to JD.
Shout out to JD.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I tracked down the Actors Lab and walked in the door and scared as crap and said, I'm going to do this thing. And then 2 months later, I had an agent, Luann at Monarch, and then a month after that, I booked Army Wives. It was just like pop, pop,
That's
pop.
awesome.
It's like what I was supposed to be doing.
Shout out to Luann, too.
Shout out
She's
to
also
Luann.
my agent.
Yeah.
So
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, so, and it's just been going since. And JD, it's funny, but I shot him a text about a week and a half ago, and I was like, I don't know if you remember this, but we grabbed coffee once, and you told me that if I really busted my ass, I could look up, and between teaching and acting, I could be making my living off of what I love to do, and here I am.
Yeah.
And I kind of, it was a moment where I was just kind of like, well, I'll be damned,
Well, that's been the case for a long time, for several years.
Yeah, for a few years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's awesome.
yeah, and when I was trying to work out the whole acting thing, I was still doing. I had a small warehouse, and I was doing some custom work for some of my best customers, a couple in New York and some around Charlotte area, and it was brutal because I was trying to do everything myself, and trying to keep money flowing in, and then taking classes and trying to get to auditions and everything else. So, there were nights that I would work through the night to get an order done for a customer, load it up on a truck, and then go to an audition and then start all over again. There were several nights where I didn't sleep. But at the time, it was okay. It's funny because when I was running the furniture company at the back end, when it was really getting bad, I was really hard to get along with. And my wife told me that after it all shut down and everything. And she was like, man, it's good to have you back. You were really hard to get along with.
That's
there.
funny.
And
Stress is tough.
it's
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And even though I was working through the night, making sure my customers were taken care of, I was doing the acting, as much as I could as well, and I was happy. So it didn't seem like such a stressful time.
Kind of an outlet.
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
I look back on it, I was like, I'm not even sure how I pulled that off sometimes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But I think everything is, I mean, if you want to be really successful, something you have to put in the work.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's kind of the rule.
Yeah.
Just put the work in, delay gratification, sacrifice.
Yeah, and you have to lose too.
Oh,
You have to have those
I
big
think
losses
so.
as part of it. It's
Yeah.
part of the formula.
Yeah. Well, and as an actor, you know this. I mean, it's about what 95% rejection.
Oh yeah, you lose every time.
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah. and you just learn and move on and.
But
Let it go.
like you've taught me and JD taught me, even when you have the audition, you get to work
You get
and
to
you should
work.
be excited about it because it's actually you doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
And every time I have an audition, I feel like the next one's better.
Yeah.
If like, oh, I learned something new in this audition, or I feel more comfortable in this audition, it just gets better and better.
Yeah.
And I think that's the goal.
I don't want to blow smoke up Neil's proverbial tail while he's sitting next to me, but
Blow away.
no. But so what's interesting is Neil and I fully partnered up March 18th 4 years ago. So this March 18th was 4
Isn't
years.
that long?
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Where we went full throttle. We've known each other and been business associates or affiliates in similar industries for a long time, for probably 15 years.
Yeah.
But so what's interesting though is I've gotten to see him improve because March 18th 4 years ago, probably not the first thing that he showed me, but maybe the second or third was he showed me some of his, I guess, the reel, like some of your footage.
awful.
Right. And so I remember seeing that. I remember him showing it to me. But then over the years, he showed me other things. Right. And what's interesting for me is I've watched him improve.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm talking about, and I'm not saying he was bad.
That was bad.
But when you look when you look today, though, it's like, holy cow, I can see this drastic improvement.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome to see that process he's went through.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
Still going through.
And I can testify. Neil puts the work in.
Yeah, he does.
That's what the difference is. I mean, he's.
Yeah, and again, I'll keep blowing over here, but there were times where we were putting in 80 to 100-hour weeks. We're getting all this stuff done. We're running all of our businesses. He would make time. He'd be going down to Charlotte. I think it was on Wednesdays. I don't recall the day, but he'd be going down to Charlotte. He'd say, "I've got my acting class tonight." He'd just worked it in, and he'd come back sometimes, and he'd be finishing up. Sometimes I remember having hour-long conversations after he would finish class.
Yeah.
But he did that for a long time. I mean, I don't remember. I think it was
At least 5 years.
Yeah, at least I think years. And then he got to a point where he finished, but not finished, but stopped attending the classes.
Yeah.
But it's just impressive to see. And same thing like you're talking about is you've got to do everything else you've got to do to survive. But then he was taking that time and carving out to follow a passion.
Yeah.
So that's an awesome experience.
And really, the only reason I stopped going to class is because it's an hour and a half for me, but I was having a lot more auditions, and running businesses and having auditions that's all I could do.
Yeah.
And I've learned the craft pretty well, so I can work on it every day on my own, and then also I've worked with you some since then too.
Yeah. Well, and just putting stuff on tape, just auditioning. The doing it is it keeps everything. You learn every time you put something on tape.
That and working on sets and
Yeah.
projects. It's funny, like early on, when I would have an audition, I'd get really nervous, or actually you book your first job and you're super nervous. It's not a big deal, but back then it was a huge deal,
Right.
And now I could walk onto a network set and just feel totally comfortable because, I mean, in some ways, I mean, I think you get what you're ready for, in life, and when you walk on these network sets, if I wasn't ready to be there, it would be overwhelming, it'd be really intimidating. But now I look at it like when I'm there, if I'm fortunate enough to book a good role, like a guest star role in a network series or something, I feel just so lucky when I'm there, and it's really just preposterous that we get treated so well, and you get paid so much money just to hang out and have fun all day with other cool people.
Yeah, you get to play.
Yeah, which is amazing.
I've always thought if what you do for a living has the word play in it, you've pretty much won the game.
Yeah, at least you're winning.
Yeah.
And I started doing some stand-up comedy, and that's a lot of that nervousness came back from that because that's pretty stressful.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. It's a good challenge. But what do you think? What's your experience been with, I guess, becoming more successful in acting and being on sets? And were you nervous to begin with early on, and you've gotten more comfortable?
Yeah, I still get nervous.
But it's different though, right?
It's different.
Yeah.
It's more just adrenaline.
Yeah, it's like excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the first things that happened on set on Army Wives. I was playing a doctor, and I was speaking to an Army wife about her husband had been in a Humvee accident the week before, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I was walking down the hall in the hospital talking to her, and when I got to her, and it was during a rehearsal for camera, and when I got to the hospital room where her husband was, I stopped and I finished the conversation there, and I kind of just sort of showed her where her husband was, and it was just instinct. I just did it, you know. And the director, when they cut for rehearsal, he goes, "Somebody mark that," and you know, they come out, they put the tape down and everything, and the assistant to the director was like, "Wait a minute, how did he know to stop there?" And the director was like, "That was great instinct." And the guy looked at me and said, "How did you know to stop there?" And I said, "Well, that's my patient. He's in that room. I know where he is." You know, it just seemed
It's supposed to be real, right?
Yeah, but I'll never forget the director taking that moment to say that was great instinct, because that immediately gave me confidence. And that's great directing. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh yeah,
you know. And I found that on just about every set I've been on. And I tell my students all the time, I'm like, if you get cast, you're in the club. You know,
Yeah.
It's like they actually want you there. So listening to my own advice, you know, helps.
Yeah.
And so now when I'm on set, it feels like home. Like I was on, I don't know how much of this I can say because it's not out yet, but here we go. So now if my part gets cut, you'll know why.
Tiptoe.
But anyway,
Tiptoe.
so I was working on the Underground Railroad, which is directed by Barry Jenkins. He directed Moonlight, so he's got an Academy Award. And,
Nice.
And I was working with Joel Edgerton, who I love. Who,
Yeah.
if you seen
Incredible.
The King on Netflix, dude?
I haven't seen that yet.
Awesome. It's awesome and brutal. So I'm working with these two big shots, and
Yeah.
I didn't audition for this role. They basically called me and said, "Hey, come do this role," which floored me. It's never happened.
That's when you know you're doing really well.
Yeah, apparently. I was like, "Hey, this is awesome." But Joel came up to me and said, "Hey, man, you want to run some lines?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Of course.
All right. And so we're going through it, and it's set in like 1817. So it's the vernaculars from then, and we don't talk like that anymore. And there was a spot where Joel was like, "I'm not really sure what I mean here." And I was like, "Well, I think you mean this." He goes, "Oh, I think I mean that." And so we kind of went back and forth, and he said, "Let's call Barry over." I said, "Okay." So Barry comes over, and he's talking with us, and it's just the three of us yakking about this scene, and it just felt normal. It was crazy. And at one point, Barry said, "What you mean is I'm in here because it's convenient. If you don't want to do this for me, then I'll take it down the road." And Joel smacked me and goes, "That's what Pat said." And it was just the coolest moment, you know?
That's awesome.
But again, I think they knew exactly what they were doing, including me. I don't think that was a mistake. They want to make you feel like you're part of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're open to that, then everything clicks.
Right.
You know?
Interesting. That's good. Yeah. When I worked on NCIS, LeVar Burton was like that with me. He was like giving me praise in the scene and stuff.
Yeah.
It makes you feel great.
It makes you feel great.
Well, it's great just to meet this guy.
Right.
But then when he says something really nice to you and comes up and pats you on the back and shakes your hand, it's like, well, I won.
Right. I know.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's that confidence builder they're giving you to let you know that there's a reason you're there, and it just all flows that way.
I've had the opposite experience too. Once, most experiencers, like what we're talking about, is really positive and everybody's cool. And I had one experience. I won't say which one it was, but it was not so cool, and it was a very different vibe for all the actors. You know, but it was, you know, you have those too. That, you know, but you still do a great job, and you you stay positive and you do your best work, and it's good.
Yeah,
I'm
I was on Nashville, and I was working opposite Chip Eston, who is also on Outer Banks, and at one point I turned to speak to him, and they were doing a close up on me, and when I turned, the camera was right in my grill. I mean, like it was right here, and Chip was really behind the camera, and so I coming around didn't want to spike the camera, so I came off just a little bit and delivered my lines there. And the director came up on the bus. We were literally shooting on a bus, and she was like, "I'm gonna get all up in your grill. This is your moment. This is where I want to get right up in there." And she said, "So I don't want you, being camera shy or whatever." And Chip said, "Hey, that's my bad. I didn't give him an eye line. I just stuck over here behind the camera." And he looked right at me. He goes, "I got you." He goes, "I got you next take." And when she walked, and he didn't have to say squat, And when she walked off, I said, "Thanks, man." He was like, "Don't worry about it. I got you. We're good."
That's awesome.
And it was just like, he could have just sat over there and said, "New guy, he's getting, beat up a little bit. It'll be fine."
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was like, "That was me."
That's good. Yeah.
And he kind of, and she immediately went, "Oh, okay, cool. Let's go again."
Yeah.
And,
That's great.
it's that kind of stuff. I hope that I get to the point where I'm that for somebody. You know what I mean?
Oh, you already are to an extent. I mean,
well,
but you will be for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll fall in.
Yeah.
I don't want to put anybody out there names wise, but what's interesting is I originally heard of you through Neil, right? But there are other people. I live in Mooresville on Lake Norman. There are other people in our circle that know you and have spoken very highly of you. And I didn't know that you guys were the same person, that we're one person.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so Neil's telling me about this guy, and then I've got these other people, and of some of them that I've...
Yeah.
I call her the hat lady, but she's got these amazing hats.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put her on blast. But anyway, so we've got, there's some other stuff going on, but I'm hearing about you from multiple sources.
Oh, cool.
And I didn't realize they were all the same person. Then I started really thinking, I'm like, wait a second, this is the same guy.
You're popular, Pat.
Yeah,
Right.
you've
All right.
you've got a network for sure, and very, very respected. So
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's good to hear. Thanks.
and I'm not in y'all's industry, so this is completely outside, really.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
So I think that's cool. Yeah,
That is cool. I'll take it.
yeah. I just keep blowing over here. But that's cool. So you were saying earlier that Jesse had asked you how you got into acting, and you were talking about basically from the ground up. And I think you had left off in Nashville. You were working part time. You were selling.
Oh, yeah.
The
Water filters?
Water filters.
Water filters.
So I got to ask you because I'm curious. Like, what was the you sell 10? How many? What did you have to sell a week to survive? I was going to ask you that earlier.
I don't
Yeah.
even remember. It was, and it was one of those. It was. Oh, what was it? NSA. And so it was like a multi-level marketing.
Oh, yeah, I remember
thing.
those.
Yeah. And it was, it was funny because back then, people were just like, "What do you want to filter my water for?"
Oh, you're selling the actual water filtration systems.
Water filtration
Like
systems.
$4,000 a pop.
yeah,
So, yeah, well, the whole houses were that,
Yeah.
but you could get one that you just stuck on your kitchen sink if
Okay.
you wanted to, So, and I was young. I was 23, 22. Something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people I was contacting were contacts from my parents and stuff, and they just felt bad for me.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you got to work the warm market.
That's right. That's right. And I did sell some. It was. I think that as you go through things, you learn that there are certain things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I learned I did not want to sell water filtration.
Oh,
yeah.
It's just like my first job. My dad owned a construction company, and my brothers run it now. And it's my dad was amazing, and he put all of us to work. When you turned 14 and you were a boy, you went to work for him, and that was And so my first job was pulling nails, literally pulling nails in Nashville, Tennessee, about 100 degrees outside. And I was just at this warehouse all day long,
Pulling nails.
outside in the back. and I learned that I did not want to pull nails.
It's a good lesson.
That's
Yeah.
a good lesson, man.
It is.
You know, I learned that you get up and you get to work early in the morning and you bust your ass, but you don't want to be pulling nails.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's funny. My dad recently told me a story about something I don't even remember. Like, I've completely blocked it out of my memory. But he said that back in maybe 2000, I was probably 20, he cut down a bunch of hardwood trees, and he would saw them up and made me split them. And it took like 2 or 3 days. And he said I was splitting wood for like 12, 15 hours a day.
Oof.
And we did it all. I was like, I have no recollection of that at all. It must have been so terrible.
I was about to say,
It's
you
like,
completely blocked it from
Yeah.
your memory.
it was so bad I can't remember it.
Traumatic. But you don't split logs
I
anymore.
don't, and I will not. And maybe that's why I have no desire.
Yeah.
See, I don't know.
I don't even mow my yard.
I was gonna say, I don't do that either. Yeah. It just seems any type of manual labor, I just get discouraged immediately. I'm like,
Yeah,
can't-
not what I want to do.
this is not it. I don't know what broke me, but something broke me. Must have broke me early on. We've got a partner that loves manual labor.
Yeah, which is mind-boggling.
He mows his own yard. I thought, oh, it's a small yard. He just likes to do it. Well, he's got a 30-acre estate now. He still mows it. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? He's telling me about his new mower he bought. I'm like, you can pay somebody to mow
That's
that.
just scary, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So, and he likes to turn wrenches. He'll bring people down to our shop and change their tires if they're broke down the side of the road. Like he likes to do it.
Mechanical guy.
Yeah, he's
Awesome.
just
Yeah.
that's what he likes to do. I'm like, man, I hate that stuff. Like, if I had to change my own oil, I don't know what I would do. It'd be
I used to do it.
be a bad day. So
I still have to get my hands on something.
I like to work
Oh.
on things sometimes, but more creative things, not just like chores. You know, it has to be. I have to be creating something, like building something, or
I'll work on a business, a building. I'll help do. We'll help unload trailer if I have to, right?
yeah.
We'll do business plans. So I'll do all that all day long. We'll talk business 24/7. If I have to start pulling nails for too long, I'm like, all right, I
do
can
that
jump in for 20 minutes and help out, and I'm like, all right, this is why I don't want to do this.
That's morale boosting. Though.
Yeah.
That's different.
So who knows? But
Hey, Pat, what's your favorite kind of stuff? You're probably going to say all of it. You like working on all stuff, but do you have a preference over like movies or commercials or theater or anything like that?
I like all of it. Actually, let's see. So I like commercials because they're a blast, and they're quick,
Right.
and they're great paychecks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Series too, I forgot to mention.
yeah, I love television. It's
Yeah.
great.
You get to develop a character with that.
Yeah, and it's and as far as being a working actor, television, man, they can pull you in for a day or 2 or 3, and you get to be a part of the ensemble.
Or
and-
10 years.
Yeah, or 10 years, and you get to really tell the story, and it's great. Films are awesome. I've done some theater. I actually like theater, but you can't make money doing
No.
theater, so I don't do theater. But it's a good training ground, I would say probably television. I think is probably my favorite. I love films, but probably yeah, man.
Well,
TV.
today the TV series are like movies. They're like long movies.
So yeah, it's like long
And the
format
production
film.
quality is exactly the same.
Yeah,
Sometimes better.
yeah.
I almost feel like everything's going that way.
Yeah, I think there's more
Right.
money in it. I think
Yeah.
it's for advertisers and stuff too.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of there's so many platforms now that
Yeah.
need the content, and it's funny to me that the content's all still so good
Yeah.
because it should be a glut at this point. And we should be watching a bunch of crap, but there's so much good programming on. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's 8 billion people in the world now too.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of creatives out there, a lot of good
resources.
writers, it's funny. I actually just shot a project I was talking earlier, and it's called Coltanica, and we shot it at SCAD down in Savannah, Savannah
yeah.
College of Art and Design, and I had never done any work with any of those guys before. So what happened was a friend of mine from high school called me, and she was like, listen, there's this kid down at SCAD, and he's awesome. He's a great director. You really ought to talk to him. And I thought she meant like go have coffee with him, you know, talk business, whatever. So I was like, sure, yeah, you know. And so I said, give him my number. So he gets a hold of me. He's like, you know, I looked at your stuff, and you're perfect for this role. And I just thought, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? Because, you know, it's like, I don't want to do a student film.
No,
I mean, I don't mean to sound like an ass, but I mean, I would rather go work on a live set instead of going, you know. And, but I was like, okay, I tell you what, send me the script and I'll take a look at it. And he sent me the script and I was like, oh my God, this is great. You know, I was really kind of floored. And it was compelling. It was quick. It was nonstop action from beginning to end. And then I thought, well, there's no way he can pull it off. You know, I was like, this isn't going to happen. So I called him back. I was like, you don't by any chance have a director's reel, do you? And he was like, sure. And he sent me his link to his reel. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, I was like, this guy could probably really pull this off. So I said, yeah, let's do this. And I'm SAG. So I said, can you make it SAG? Can you get a SAG contract? He said, yeah, there's actually a student SAG contract. I said, cool. Perfect. So they did the paperwork and the whole bit, and it was phenomenal. Like, awesome. I couldn't believe it. But I was, you know, and they're all, I think he's I think 22 or 23.
Wow.
You know, and it's his senior thesis, and then they're taking it out. You know, he's like, this is my introduction to doing to actually doing this. And it was incredibly professional. They're young. They had tons of energy. They all know each other and run around together, so they all had each other's back. The crew, there had to be like 30 people on set for crew.
Nice, that's incredible.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I told him, I was like, man, I've been on professional sets that, you know, are you guys, I don't know if you realize this, but it's exactly like this.
Well, I'm sure that guy's going to produce some great films, and you'll be a part of them, or TV series or something.
That's funny, because that's what I said. He said, you know, he called me once, and he and his name's Mitchell Smolenski, and his partner on the project is Ian Arnoldy, and we were on a call, and Mitchell was just like, look, man, I really appreciate you doing this, man. I really do. And I said, don't get it wrong. I said, in 5 years, you're going to have about a $17 million budget for a film, and you're going to give me a call.
Right.
And he started busting up laughing. He said, that's where we're headed. I said, all right,
that's
cool.
Awesome.
So, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Planting seeds.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Very cool. Well, you know, Matt Damon, I think he wrote Good Will Hunting when he was in college.
Yeah.
So there are those 4-leaf clovers out there.
Yeah. It's funny because he tells a story. He and Ben Affleck, like, I think they lived together at the time, but they're buddies from forever ago. And Robin Williams got behind the project somehow. I don't even know how. And so he wanted to put a bunch of people together, put money in it and the whole bit. So Robin sets up this meeting, and they go, and they're you know, Matt and Ben are this big table, you know, and they said, okay, fellas, we've taken a look at it, and we're thinking for the script, you know, $1 million. And Matt said he and Ben looked at each other, and they just started busting up laughing, because earlier that morning they were literally looking for change in the cushions to go buy lunch.
Wow.
And he said they just started busting up laughing. They were like, okay.
You know, that's funny.
And then it just went from there, you know. But yeah, it's you know, I love that sort of stuff where
that's cool.
You know, you hear guys like on their last leg, and they've got something great, and they're holding on to it and finally make it happen.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, a lot of the most successful people in Hollywood, they started by creating their own stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, Stallone.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And you started creating your own stuff too.
Yeah.
So
you know, so we'll see.
Be a similar story one
see
day.
where that goes. Yeah. When y'all have me back in a couple of years.
How has the quarantine affected your work?
Well, we moved the classes online.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, cool. and that's gone well. It's limiting, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a collaborative art form, and you really want it's not ideal.
Yeah.
But we're making it work, and it's kind of amazing how people are pitching in during this time and really giving back. And this week alone, let's see. So JD is out in LA. He's got a lab, an actor's lab in LA and in Santa Barbara, and then Christina Haddad runs the actor's lab in Portland.
Right.
And then I'm here in Charlotte with Brian Pierce. And this week alone, let's see, JD had, started off with Christina. Christina had Jim Belushi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he jumped
Wow.
into class. So we sat in on that, and we had Jim Belushi. And then the following night, JD had Bob Coher, which he's directed everything from Hannah Montana to anger management. I mean, he's been around
Very cool.
forever. He was amazing. And then last night I had Jen Ingully sit in on our class, and Jen's cast Homeland and The Passage, and she's worked on The Walking Dead, and she sat in with us, and she hung out with us for 2 hours.
Wow, that's awesome.
She's got so much energy and such an incredible personality, and I love her to death. She cast Limbo. Actually, she was my casting director.
Oh, that's right.
on Limbo.
Yeah. She's a really nice person.
Yeah, she's great.
Cool.
And she spent time with us, and then she was just like, so listen, Pat, if you guys are working on something, why don't you have everybody tape it, and I'll take a look at everybody's tapes. I was like, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and so, it's one of those things where as a community, I feel like everybody's kind of getting together and doing whatever they can to keep each other from going crazy and keep people motivated, moving forward.
Yep.
It's just too easy to say, there's nothing going on right now, so I'm going to sit here.
Right.
You know?
That's a good time to be creating things.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming up with ideas and.
Well, and God knows by the time we get out of this, we will have watched everything.
Right.
So it's like there better be some content coming out of the gate.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
How'd you make the transition from being like a student of acting to a teacher of acting?
Literally, JD came to me and said, I want to start a teen class and I want you to teach it.
Wow.
I mean, just out of the blue. I had never even considered it. And
how long were you learning up to that point?
Let's see. I was probably, I guess I had been taking classes for a couple years.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. And I said, and I literally looked at him and said, "Why me?" And he said, "Look, you're getting it." He said, "You've got the right energy, and you soak up everything. And I feel like if we start you off in a teen class, that you'll be able to pass it along, and you've got the energy to hang with them, and you like kids." And I was like, "Okay, cool,
awesome."
And it's funny because I teach 2 teen classes and 2 adult classes, and then during the summer, I also typically, it won't happen this summer, but typically I run a couple camps.
Right.
And I work with kids, 10 to 17. And I think a lot of adults assume that the teens must wear me out because there are days that I teach a teen class and then I teach an adult class. And the funny thing is, it's exactly the opposite. I'll come in to a teen class and I'll be completely dead. I'll be out of energy for whatever reason, and 5 minutes into it, I'm just jacked because
they have so much energy.
Oh my God, dude, it's crazy.
Contagious.
Yeah, it's absolutely contagious, and that'll carry me all the way through the adult class that night.
Get to all those tired adults.
Yeah, because then I have to jack them up. So it's like I need to have something going on. But my teens are, I've got some crazy talented teens.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're all extremely cool. So
That's cool.
And it's funny, they get along really well and they create together really well, which is sort of surprising to me. You would think it would get real cliquish, but I've got a few kids in each class that if it does start to get a little cliquish, they're the glue that holds everybody together. And it just works, you know.
Yeah.
It just works.
One thing cool about acting class too is it's a non-judgmental place.
Yeah.
So actors are not offended by anything really in that environment, and we don't we learn to not judge people.
Yeah.
You know, you learn to look at everything objectively, and I think that helps a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I tell people coming in the door, you know, when they have to interview before
Well, that's true.
before they start take classes, but I'll tell them, man, if there's a place where you can fail, this is it.
Yeah.
You can go in there, try something really courageous and bomb, and we'll pick you right up and dust you off. I'll give you some notes and we'll go again. You know, it's
We'll even
just,
clap afterwards.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. You'll fall flat on your ass, and we
I've
will
eaten
clap
plenty of
for
shit
it.
in there before and still got an applause.
But yeah, man, it's and two, you know, I've got through acting class, I've got Lacey Camp is a dear friend of mine, and
Yeah, love Lacey.
yeah, love Lacey, and you know, over the years, we'll call each other when it's like I can't do this anymore. You know, like she'll call me and she'll just call me and go, talk me off the ledge, you know, and it's awesome having somebody like that, you know, where you can not just say, here's something great that I've got going on, but I'm not at a good place right now, you know.
Yeah.
Thank God we've never called each other at the same time and been, I'm not at a good place right now. or we'd have a donut shop or something. But you know, and she's been running around the world for the last couple of years with Darby,
Right.
Darby Camp. She's been killing it. But I think if you're creative, there's always going to be times where you're just like, man, what am I thinking? You know?
Yeah, because it's a little crazy sometimes.
It is. It's a little crazy.
It seems a little surreal, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're working on creative stuff because you're playing,
right.
you're doing the stuff you did as a kid, and then you're taught your whole life you have to grow up and do adult things.
Exactly.
And then
Yeah.
we're like writing screenplays and acting, so it just seems like it's not right.
Yeah, exactly. What if I were a vampire?
Right. Yeah.
Do you think teaching acting has made you yourself a better actor? I know, like, I taught filmmaking for like 17 years, and it definitely got better, you know, with repetition and stuff. Do you find that the same?
Absolutely, man. There's a lot of times when I'll be teaching and somebody will ask me a question, especially if it's about the business end of it, you know, like you know, listen, what do I need to do to get in front of casting directors? And I'm like, well, what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're, you know, at least quarterly getting out an emailer, blah, 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 blah. And you need to make sure you're in contact with your agent. And then in the back of my mind, I'm going, oh crap, Pat, you need to be doing the things you're telling you. You know, it's like, you know, so, but there's something about that sharing the knowledge that, you know, kind of keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, you know, I'll jump into something in class, and do it as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I think it's important that my students see that I'm one of them, because and I think that's one of the reasons that the lab works, is because I'm a working actor. I mean, I'm, you know, when somebody comes in the door for the first time, I'm like, well, the reason this is going to work out is because I'm doing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
So if I find out something doesn't work, I'll tell you. And if I find out something does work, I'll tell you.
Right.
know? So we're all kind of pushing in the same direction. Yeah. And with acting too, you know, I'm always going to be me.
Yeah.
And there's things about me that I'm going to bring to every role that, you know, somebody else isn't, but there's things about you that you're going to bring to a role that nobody else can, you know? So it's so individual. It's just, a lot of times it's just getting out of your way.
Right.
Getting out of your own way.
What I learned at the lab and from studying was, I think it takes about, like JD says, it takes about 4 years to really get it. And then once you reach that point where you get it, you start to see your own things, like your own personality, really come out in the work you do. And
I think you're finally able to relax a little.
Yeah, like you learn the principles behind it and how it works, and then you just sort of do it.
Yeah.
And then the cool stuff starts happening. It starts to seem, that's when it starts to seem real.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, but I think it takes a long time to realize that it's easier than you thought it was.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, wait, if I don't try so hard, it comes out more realistic. That's weird.
But I think some of that's also, I guess taking that structure and those ideas and ingraining those into your mind where it's subconscious, where it's almost like you're doing the structural part of it autonomously, and that's when you get out of your head, because early on you're trying to figure out, like, okay, I have to have a point of view, and I have to have a choice that has nothing to do with this scene, but I still have to be this person in this scene, and it's got to be real. And you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What does this mean?
Yeah.
Is it early on? It feels like you're doing 6 different things at once, but a lot of those base things become just natural. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's
just getting in the zone.
Yeah.
Once you get some stuff on autopilot,
Yeah.
then that's when stuff happens.
Like, it's good.
Yeah. Going back to Underground Railroad, since they offered me the part, I had never done it, until I saw the sides. And so I was on set, and all my choices were wrong. Like, I had made some great choices, and they were wrong. And I had deduced what was going on by the script. But I, felt I was one way, and Barry Jenkins came in and after our rehearsal for camera basically told me I wasn't that way.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then I had to change everything around. And so I kind of stay in it when I'm on set. So when in between takes, when they were resetting cameras, I never left the set. I'm sure I was in their way, and they were just kind enough not to tell me I was in their way. But it also saves them from having to bring a stand-in in. But anyway, so I'm there, and I'm still in it, and I'm working out everything that Barry told me. And he came in and he got in my ear and he goes, "That's exactly where you need to be." And I was like, he goes, "Where you are right now is exactly where you need to be." And I just said, "Okay."
That's
and
cool.
from then on, once he put that in my ear, I was like, I could let everything else go.
Yeah.
And then everything worked,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the being experienced is you can, if your choices aren't right for the character and the director wants something else, you've made enough different choices in your training that it's easy to just switch your choice to something else and then go into that.
Yeah.
And
And it's also kind of, if I'm making that, if that's what I need to be, then I need to be thinking and feeling this way.
Right, yeah.
And letting this, this part of the scene affect me in this certain way. And then once you hook that up,
There's a lot of inexperienced actors, they think that your choice is like the facial expression you make, or
right.
Like you have to pretend like you're mad. Well, no, you have to have a choice that makes you angry,
Right.
and it's inside you.
Yeah.
You feel it in your heart.
Yeah.
And also I guess for young actors that are just getting started, they need to know that it is a craft, it is an art, and you have to put a lot of work into it to develop that craft and that art. It's not about memorizing lines and making faces, and you guys at the lab always taught me that, where you teach at the lab, that it's not about memorizing lines at all. It's
Right.
about learning the ideas, and then the words fall into the place. So now, because of my training, if I get a 5-page audition or longer, I can have it down in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Put it on tape the next day, because I'm not trying to memorize lines. I'm learning the idea, working it out, and then just putting the right words in the right place. And it's almost like magic, It's almost like you're not doing it; it just happens.
Yeah.
And so I think young actors need to know that. They need to not get frustrated because they keep going up on lines, because all that is they're just they're still learning the process, so they're constantly in their head trying to regulate and adjust what's happening. But if you keep doing it over and over again, you eventually reach a place where all that stuff's natural, and then it's easy to just kind of fall into the script and it just comes out right. And then you can worry about, maybe your certain adjusting choices or,
Right.
Things like that.
Right.
And that's where I'm at now. I mean, I think it takes 20 years to be a real master at the craft, maybe. But
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you,
I don't guess
do
there's
you ever
not a real time.
feel like you're
I think you just
done?
always learn.
Yeah, I think you're always evolving. I think since we're always changing,
that's
you're
true,
always
yeah.
gonna, change the way you approach stuff.
Yeah, right.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to get bored with it. You
No,
know?
I don't. Yeah, you could
So-
never, I guess, really master it.
Yeah.
Because you could never master who you are.
Yeah. So you're always learning, which is great.
Yeah,
You know.
we'll never be perfect.
So with your students, like I imagine you get different kinds, probably some with no experience at all, and then some with probably maybe a great deal of experience. Do you meet with them sort of in different classes based upon like ability, and you have different kind of regimens of teaching you handle with them, or are you more like kind of like a therapist, individual with each one, kind of going sort of organically with what you think their needs might be, or something like that? What do you do?
Well, definitely every actor communicates differently. They're all just people, right?
Right,
So,
right.
so even though the where we want to get may be the same for all of them, how they get there is always going to be different.
Right.
So what I've found is the actors in the class help each other working together, and I facilitate how that happens. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Kind of like a workshop or something.
it's very much workshopping.
It's like a synergistic effect.
Yeah, very much. And it's so funny because steel sharpens steel, right?
Right.
So in my intermediate class, when somebody is ready to move to the master class, you can tell when you put them in there, like the first month or two, their work goes bananas because the people in the master class are freaking awesome. And so that environment changes. So even though we may be working on the same material, their work changes dramatically.
Right.
Because of the people they're working with. And I had, Tuesday night is my intermediate, and somebody asked me, they were like, what's the biggest difference between Tuesday night and Wednesday night? And I said, oh, that's easy. I said, so when you guys put up scenes? And they said, yeah. And I said, okay, so sometimes two of y'all are in a scene together, and it's like you're doing a scene and you're doing a scene because you aren't affecting each other. You aren't really listening and
Not
opening
connected.
up and connecting and letting it affect each other. I said, in Wednesday night, they can be doing a scene and I can give one of them a note and it'll change both of them's performance because the note I give this person, they assimilate it. And since this person is reacting to what's going on in the scene, it changes their performance too.
Right.
I said that's not, that's just them working,
Yeah.
And that's awesome. By the way, it's awesome
really
to
awesome,
see,
yeah.
man. It's so cool. There's sometimes on Wednesday night where I'm like, you know what? I don't know how much work I did, but this was great. you guys are awesome.
Got to see a lot of good performances.
I know, man.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of facilitating and a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
But it's a communicative art form. It's all just communicating.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on a side note with that, do you think, because I know the governor of North Carolina said that basically all retail can open up this Friday, tomorrow at 5 p.m., I believe, through the end of phase one, basically. Is the Actors Lab going to open back up then, or are you thinking more like phase two, the 22nd of this month, or have you guys thought about that any?
Well, I think, so we're thinking that we're just going to plow through this month online still.
Right.
And then go back into the lab in June.
Yeah. It'll have to be phase two for you guys. You can't have groups over 10.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's over 10,
we have to. Our class sizes usually hover around 15. So.
Oh, I gotcha.
So it'll be.
Yeah. So
June anyway.
Yeah. So technically, you're good the 22nd. You guys just roll through and just start maybe the 1st of June.
That's our thoughts.
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. Which is good because it's been great. We've found ways to really make the online stuff work, and everybody's been incredibly generous. But man, we need to get back together.
There may be a way you guys can, you may look into this too, there may be a way that you can get testing for your students. I think in certain situations, like, and since you guys are in acting school, you may be able to order test kits for the students, and they can just, pay a fee to help cover the cost, and then all be tested for antibodies, and that way, at least everybody feels better working
That's
together.
a great idea.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're going to do that on sets too for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, sets will change. Sets will change dramatically. There'll be no more crafty table.
Oh.
You won't be able to walk by and just grab some shrimp on your way to your next take.
Some dude over there coughing on the craft table. Oh. Throw it all away.
Yeah, it's kind of
It'll be different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did my antibody test on Tuesday, and
Yeah, we both did.
yeah, we did through blood work. But I'm sure there's
faster options.
There's
probably.
faster options, but yes, I'm excited to see that, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we definitely need to get back to being in the same room.
Yeah,
Right.
for
There's
sure.
no two ways about it.
For young filmmakers out there and people that are trying to produce their own work, what went into Limbo when you were trying to produce, when you produced Limbo? What was the process to do that?
It basically, so I wrote the pilot, and I called my buddy Cullen Douglas out in L.A., and I said, listen, man, I've written this great pilot, and now what do I do with it? And he's like, I got bad news for you. You got to shoot it. And I said, what? I thought I was just going to sell it to somebody. And he's like, I hate to break it to you, but nobody cares what Pat Dortch in Charlotte, North Carolina wrote. And I was like, oh, thanks, Cullen. And so I got together. So it's funny in this industry how people come back around. And I shot a Jesse, you know who Michael Sharp is, by any chance?
God, that name sounds familiar, but I can't.
Yeah, he was in Charlotte and he's out in L.A. now. But I shot a film with Michael Sharp, one of the first things I did, and the DP on the project was Joe Stauffer, and
Yeah, no Joe.
yeah, and I was DP is director of photography. Thank you. I was on that set, and I just remember he had a small crew. They were incredibly tight. They were really professional. He was very respectful of, my process. I had a lot of emotion in that film, and I just remember, I just clocked it. I was like, at some point, there's going to be a project that I'm going to want to shoot, and I'm calling this guy.
Yeah, Joe's awesome.
Yeah. So, when I had the heartbreaking news from Cullen that I needed to shoot this thing, the first person I called was Jonathan Grubbs, who's a producer around, and I love Jonathan, and he's awesome, and he's very generous. And so I had a couple meetings with him, and he was just kind of, walking me through some things. And then I called Joe and got together with Joe and got some reality. This is going to cost some money. This is going to take some time. You think we're going to be able to shoot it in a month. We're not. It's going to take at least 3 months of pre-production to lock this all in. And if that's too daunting for you, well, then we understand, but that's all true. And so I just said okay and jumped in and just started working my butt off. And Joe and Emily at Shutterblade, they're in Wilmington, were, from the moment I said okay, were in it with me and still are. We're super tight. I call him on everything, and he runs things by me all the time. And then I called my brother Robert, who has always had my back since I can remember, and a dear friend of mine named Mark Sheridan, who I've known since I was a kid. And we grew up in an area of Nashville. We're Catholic, and so we grew up in an area of Nashville that everybody called Vatican Valley, because all the Jewish families lived up on Matzah Mountain, and they had a bunch of money, and then all the Catholic families lived down in Vatican Valley. And so I said, you guys want to throw some money at this? And they were like, yeah, sure, what the hell? And so we formed Vatican Valley Productions. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
I like that.
And us together with Shutterblade, Joe and Emily, we put this thing together, and we raised about half the money ourselves, and about half the money we got through public funding, people throwing in $10 here and $20 there, and saying, "Yeah, guys, good luck," and which just blows my mind. And then we started putting together things. It was amazing to me, the people that just stepped up like it was no big deal. We're just like, yeah, sure. Like I went to Rira in Uptown Charlotte, the Irish pub, phenomenal. And I met with the manager, and I told her what we were doing. So Limbo follows Turlock Orion, who's been around for 1,600 years, and he was born in Ireland. And his job is to save people from making mistakes that make them go to hell.
Right.
And he deals with a lot of his own issues as well. But I told her about the project, and I said, he needs he has pints at a bar, an Irish pub, and I'd love to be able to shoot here. And she said, well, let me show you upstairs. And upstairs was this gorgeous, Irish pub, dark wood. And so she said, okay. And I said, well, we don't really have much of a budget. And she just went, well, I'm not going to charge you.
Wow.
And she said, why don't you just come in early in the mornings when the cleaning crew's here? They'll be working downstairs while y'all are upstairs. And anything you can get shot before like 10:30, 11 o'clock, go for it. And so 3 or 4 days we shot in Rira and didn't pay a dime. And
That's
they were
amazing.
Yeah. And Jonathan, the manager there, was amazing, and he would pour pints for us so they looked really good on camera.
Yeah.
And it was just that sort of thing happened all the time, and it was incredible. But we also ran into two hurricanes and a snowstorm while we were shooting, so it's not like things went perfectly. And we had our bumps, but when it got done, looks like something you'd watch on Netflix. It's
That's a great pilot. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Or I wanted to say that part of your, I remember when you were raising money for the film or for the pilot, you had some really good souvenirs that people could buy when they invested. Like some nice glasses and stuff like that.
Should have brought you guys. What was that?
It's a great
idea.
idea.
Brought you guys some Limbo.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, next time.
Yeah. When it gets
some
produced.
great Limbo shot glasses that Glenn
Oh,
Fish
really?
look good in. Yeah.
I've got a couple of the beer glasses. Those are really nice.
Yeah, the pints are awesome.
Yeah.
So I've got three little kids.
Uh-huh.
One's about to be 4, 7, and 9, and they all tell me they want to be YouTube actors. I don't know. They want to own YouTube channels and all this, which I think that's just that age group now. But I was seriously thinking about for my 9-year-old, because he's been bringing it up over and over and over, and I told him we've been having directors and actors on, and he's been bringing it up over and over and over. And then we've got a family friend that their child, I think, is under your tutelage.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, what age would you suggest, or is there an age? Like, what age do you guys work with, or what age is a good point to start putting them into that type of environment, or some of the summer camps and things that you guys do?
So classes, we don't take them till they're 10.
Okay.
But now camps, we'll usually let them in 9. Sometimes we've let in a couple of 8-year-olds if we felt like they were really, mature enough to hang out with the other kids. The camps are like 6 hours long, so it's a lot for a little kid to stay engaged that long. But now I'll do private sessions with them as young as like 7.
Yeah, so I may want to try that. Maybe we start with a private session for him, so you can just get a feel, and he can get a feel for what it could be.
Yeah.
So he's been bringing that up over and over, and I mean, honestly, our whole thing, he has to pay for half of anything. If it's not like his school or something that he's got to do, he's got to pay for half of it if he wants to do it. And so now he started saying, hey, I'll pay for half of it, which is really telling me, because he values his money.
Yeah.
And he knows if he spends it on something, he may not get something else. And now he's starting to say he'll pay for it. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we split it up. We usually go 50-50, and we'll see and gauge his interest by that.
Yeah.
So just something personal anyway.
Yeah.
That's good for everybody out there to know that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a student that pays for his stuff as well. And he'll come in for a taping, and like half of my payment will be in quarters.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
I
That's
love
great
it.
though. It teaches
Yeah.
responsibility.
I know,
Yeah.
it's
No, I love it.
fantastic.
Makes them appreciate things too.
If my kids go to buy a $7 item, right, and they've got to pay for half of it, and if I really don't want to get it, they got to pay for all of it.
Yeah.
But if they choose to do that, what ends up happening is they've bought these 5 and 6. At the end of the checkout, right there before you check out, you've got all these little things. There's candy and snacks and $5 toys. So in the beginning, they fall in that trap. But when they go to buy a $70 toy, they don't have enough money, and I tell them no, and I don't budge. You don't have your half, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Right, and I say things like, hey, if you don't buy the $5 toys, you can delay gratification. They don't really get that part, but you can wait, and you can save, and you can get this bigger thing that you want. And over time, it's really started to work. And now, especially my oldest son, Daniel, he's got it down pat. Now the other side of that is I have to pay them a legitimate wage. I don't pay them what I pay an adult, but let's say half of what I would pay an adult. I have to give them a real opportunity to earn money if I'm going to make for them pay for things. You can't pay them 25 cents and expect them to fully understand the exchange value.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but anyway.
Yeah. Well, my son Jack. So I've got 3 kids.
Okay.
And my son Jack, who's just turned 18, he's a senior. So for their senior trip, they were all going to go to Cancun. And he was like, "We're all going to Cancun." I was like, "That sounds great, buddy. How are you going to pay for that?" And he went and got a job at Cowfish, bussing tables,
Nice.
and then he would get on the Nextdoor app. I don't know if y'all use that.
Yeah, I use it.
He get on. He could be mowing y'all's grass. Y'all don't want to do it. So he's doing yard work and everything else. So he raised it was ridiculous. It was like $1,800 or something
Nice.
to go to Cancun, and now it's canceled. So he's learned all sorts of lessons.
Yeah.
Trip insurance, for instance. But no, they're getting all their money back.
That's good.
But it's since he paid for it himself. I mean, the other day he was like, "Well, I mean, I've got $1,800 in the bank." It's like he got his money back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now he still has the money.
Yeah.
And he's like, "We'll go if we go do something else this summer. I'm ready to go."
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Good
awesome.
lesson.
That's a big lesson.
Yeah. He's a worker, man.
That's cool. It's crazy your kids are grown now.
It's
Or
nuts.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Back to the private classes. That's how Darby got started, right?
Yeah. Darby's special. I mean,
Clearly.
it's.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just have it in buckets, and
Yeah.
since Darby was little, she could just do it. I mean, it's funny. Lacey will say that I coached Darby, and I guess I helped Darby out a little bit, but she's natural. I mean, that's just that Darby on film. She's just being whatever that character is, and that's just how she is.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And so, I may have facilitated a couple things, some, and I got to work with her, and it was great. But she just always had it,
She's like a modern day Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
That's what she reminds me of.
Yeah. She's great. The whole camp family's awesome. Ruthie, Darby's big sister, is real athletic, great basketball player. So they're their mother and father. Clark's the basketball coach,
Right.
and he's a phenomenal player. And Lacey's a great actor. And then, Ruthie's a great basketball player, and Darby's a great actor. And Darby's. It's funny. I was actually at one of my son's basketball games, and they sent me a tape. Clark, Darby's dad, Lacey's husband. Clark sent me a tape. He's like, "Hey, man, what notes do you have for Darby on this tape?" And I was in the stands, and I watched it on my phone, and I just texted him back. I was like, "Why did you send this to me?" It's
perfect.
Send it. Yes. I was like, "Send it off, man. That's seamless."
That's funny.
And she got in front of a couple of the right people, and she's got Lacey in her corner, and Clark handles the business side of things, and good representation, and again, Luann at Monarch, she was Lacey and Darby. She got them going, and off she goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Next level.
Yeah, completely.
So awesome. You've had several students do pretty well, right?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and embarrass them, but I've got a handful of students in teen class right now that I guarantee you will go places.
Nice.
Sophie Vanderlinden's great. Ella Dortch, whose last name is one letter off of mine, so people always think she's my daughter. Man, your daughter's awesome. She's a great actor, just like you. But funny. Ella's fantastic. She's going to be in the next installment of a film franchise. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet because she's signed an NDA, but
that's a big deal.
I'll tell you when we're off of this.
Yeah.
But that's a great story. I wish I could tell you. I'll have to come back, or you know what? Have her on. Have her tell the story.
That'd be cool.
That happened on set, which was one of the coolest stories that I've ever heard. But she's fantastic. Will Bunden's great. He's an incredible dancer. Got tons of energy. I feel really fortunate to be able to work with the young ones, man, because they're just wide open.
That's cool.
They're just having fun, which is really
That's what it's about.
What it's about, man.
And I bet you're like, man, I wish I was doing this when I was that age.
Yeah, I wish I had this resource. I mean,
That's
who
right.
knew,
Yeah.
you know?
Because back then it was a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
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 I had tried to get into acting when I was maybe 18, 19, 20. And it just, there wasn't the resource back then, especially here in North Carolina. You know, we just didn't have,
Yeah.
and where I lived, it didn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, looking back, I think that's
We didn't have the
probably-
internet really.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, barely.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, a
Yeah.
big part of your life, you didn't have running water.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Even if there was internet, you weren't getting it.
Unusual start. Yeah. We didn't have cable.
Yeah.
My parents didn't get cable until I moved out. They didn't get a riding lawnmower until I moved out either.
They didn't need
Funny
one
how
till
that
then.
works.
Yeah,
I was about
right?
to say, yeah. Dad swears that's why he had so many boys, is so he never had to mow the grass.
Free labor. Yeah. That's funny.
I've got 3, but I'm not putting them through that. I've got given them things to teach them that they probably don't want to do that type of labor. But some people love it. But all mine have thankfully for me, because I wouldn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Like to have to buy one of my kids a mower so they can mow the lawn. What would my guy that mows the lawn do? Like, he has a thriving business.
That's
does
right.
very well. Like,
Good point. Yeah.
yeah. So, but anyway,
I did the math years ago when I hired the landscaper. I was like, well, if I bought my own lawnmower, it'd take a few years to really make sense when I can just pay this guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to
Well,
pay
and you
this
got
guy.
to pay you to
Exactly,
mow the
yeah.
lawn. That's
Yeah.
expensive.
That's time value of money.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that, and then by the time the 3 years is up and it's covered the cost of the lawnmower, it may be time to buy a new one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So just keep paying the dude that's doing a great job.
And let's not forget that you're not going to do as good a job as the guy that lives, eats, and breathes that.
Yeah, I've always hated mowing, and my dad kind of feels the same way. And he used to joke about he'd rather just pave the yard and paint it green.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm kind of that way too. So
Yeah.
My neighbors put AstroTurf in the backyard. I swear they did.
I would do it, man.
I'm
in a
sure. I was
heartbeat.
going to say, in the area I'm in, I've seen at least 1 or 2 that I've never once seen the yard mowed, not one time,
Or watered.
or watered, nothing, and it just looks. I've got my suspicions. I'm tempted to start going around and asking.
The only thing is I really like nature, so I like the living grass and bushes and stuff like that. But if I had to take care of them, may change.
So did you find it? We got it up here, huh?
Oh yeah, let's check this out. Come on, Dropbox, don't fail us.
I was born in Kilpatrick, Ireland, in the year of our Lord 392, the only son to my loving mother Maura and Eowyn Orion. Neighbouring Celts descended upon a gathering when I was 6 years old, procuring slaves for chieftains and warlords. And though the men in our party fought valiantly, they were unprepared for the onslaught, and I watched as both my father and mother were killed on the field that day. The living were rounded up and taken away, and after my abduction I was sold to a druid high priest named Milshu. While a slave, I fell in favor with Milshu, learning and practicing druidism. I became a master thief, a con artist, and I killed a man. It wouldn't be my last. I fled west to Shannon, falling in with gypsies, pirates, and murderers. My life was far less than perfect, but in my heart I longed for change. That opportunity was taken from me by bandits. They left me on the street to die. I descended into hell, but heaven had another plan for me, and I had been given a second chance. A chance to tip the scales and save souls from eternal damnation. And I will continue until I get it right. Whatever the hell that means. My name is Turlock Orion. Everybody calls me Terry.
You've been keeping yourself busy.
Simply rising to meet the incoming tide.
Modesty. The gentle art of enhancing your charm by pretending not to be aware of it. I met a new help earlier. What was his name?
Dennis.
Dennis. Yes, of course. Dennis. He seems competent.
He's a good man.
So I gathered. I do have a sense of certain underlying melancholy that will come to light eventually. Pressure has a way of finding cracks in even the strongest vessel.
Also creates diamonds.
Yes, but that requires a long time. And from what I understand, quite a bit of heat.
But he who endures to the end will be saved.
No one knows this better than yourself, I suppose.
So, Terry, what is it you want to do?
I've got a job for you.
Oh yeah.
So awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's the sizzle reel. So that's what we send possible production companies for a pitch.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That to me, and I saw little itty bitty bits. And I don't think I saw that. I saw something else. I think in the bar. But that looks. This is gonna sound stupid, but that looks professional. Like it looks like.
It's ready to go.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ready to roll. Like it looks like I'm. If I watched that, I'd be like on Netflix. I'd be like, "Yep, I'm gonna watch this season."
Yeah, it's ready to stream.
Yep.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to binge.
Yeah, I like it.
Thanks.
So have you had any luck with distribution or anything yet?
Well, yeah,
Or if you can talk about it.
we've had some interest here and there. It's kind of a weird time right now.
Yeah.
My assumption going into quarantine was that it would actually be easier to find somebody to, get a hold of it, but it's that has not proven to be true. But
Well, I guess a lot of those people are not in their offices.
exactly.
Well, I think there's a fair amount of stress, though. I've noticed and I don't know if it's the same in the acting community, but in the business community, people handle stress differently. Even if it's a money thing, but even if they're okay, they're still not okay.
Right.
It's been interesting to see how some people have become reclusive, or they've just stopped working, or they've stopped keeping themselves busy, or maybe they're just some of their things have changed. They're just less of what they were. Even me, I mean, I've noticed a difference.
Yeah.
And then there's the financial factor too. It's like everybody's not sure what the new normal is, so everybody's kind of just sitting with their foot, kind of that spot in between the brake and the gas where you're not sure if you're stopping or going. I feel like a lot of things have been right there.
A lot of uncertainty.
A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
I do know, like with like selling films and stuff like that, a lot of people for years go to the film markets, and that's thousands and thousands of people, and it's done that way. You pay 50 G's for a table, and all these people are running through buying films and stuff like that. It seems like that model could be easy to transition over to an online thing, but it could be, you know, a lot of people are kind of, they're trying to figure out stuff right now and make that shift. I don't know. We got lucky with ours. We had a distributor before we made it. So, you know, but we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, and with, you know, being that this is a pilot for a series too, you know, typically for something like that, you would get a literary agent, you know, and that's who pitches for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's considered they're really pitching the script.
Right. Okay.
Now they're tied into TV, but yeah, it's typically a literary agent, you know, right at the first of the year, there was a big strike with the writers, and they had a big falling out with the literary agents, and so all that was kind of a mess. And I think they were really getting it settled and finalized and all that before this hit. So I think that's kind of still up in the air a little bit.
Okay.
Now, I believe it was Full House. I'm probably going to butcher this. But when they did a pilot, and I thought it was for Full House, it wasn't the original Full House actors we saw. And the way they originally cast it, I guess, they ended up switching gears and coming back to see the cast that we see now. I don't know if, and I may be wrong, probably wrong about this.
I think you're right.
But I thought that was interesting. And the whole point of that being, do you intend to be cast in this role, or did you solely do it just to get, for the purpose of getting the pilot done? Because I think you nail it. Or do you think they'll recast it and when they do the season?
You know, once money gets involved, it could be
Either.
You know, it could be anything could happen.
Yeah.
I would love to use this as a vehicle, not just for my writing, but for my acting. But you know, truth be told, if you know, they're like, Pierce Brosnan wants this part.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, well, listen, tell him I said good luck.
Yeah, that's a big compliment.
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
that you'll be that role when it gets produced, though.
That's I'd love it because it's
and you need to maintain some type of creative rights to it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's the goal, you know,
Right.
The dream is we keep the same cast, we keep going forward. You know, there's some things in the pilot I'd like to go back and tweak myself, but it is a proof of concept to say you know this works as a
You'll
1 hour
reshoot the
drama.
pilot
Yeah.
so it gets produced. Yeah.
Yeah. And now, I mean, Drew Starkey from Outer Banks, I can't afford him anymore, probably. So,
Well, once you get the backing, that's
that's a whole different thing. But it's cool when you go to Drew's IMDb page, it actually goes Outer Banks, Limbo, Ozark. It's
nice.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I mean, great company, even though it's not produced yet. So,
Yeah.
you know, we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Remind me after the episode to mention something about that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I would say it on here, but I don't know if they'd want me to, so I'll just
Okay.
tell you after.
Cool.
Yeah,
Secrets.
Yeah, secrets.
Do you guys have like a whole bunch of like a whole season planned and written already, or do you have like ideas and then when you get the green light, you'll go ahead and finish all the scripts, or how is the writing process going for you guys?
So I've got 3 episodes completely written, and then
Nice.
the 4th episode about half written. The story arc for the first season done.
Yeah.
And I've got a show Bible, you know, that kind of shows the whole story.
Right.
So it's complete as a pitch, and it's ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
You know.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing to mention. That you are the writer of this series too.
Yeah. So we've got a lot in the, you know, in ready to go. Or I don't know how you'd say that. We got
In the
a lot
works.
in the hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of pushing it forward and seeing what gets picked up, you know.
Awesome.
I've got actually the next thing that I'll shoot as soon as this breaks is a micro short. It's probably, I bet it ends up about 7 minutes. And it's using Bailey Greeman, who is a teen that I've worked with for roughly forever. And she's just fantastic. And she's a junior in high school now. And it deals with loss, and it should be extremely powerful. It's going to be artsy, and you know.
Cool.
And she's big shout out to Bailey. I'm a big fan. She's awesome. She's an incredible dancer.
Very cool.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. It's nice to have something ready to go. You know, it's something to look forward to coming out. I'm pinned for 2 projects.
Can you say what they are? Or
I cannot.
Okay.
But I can when we get off the air.
Awesome.
But I'm pinned for 2 projects. I'm really hoping that goes through. Atlanta's starting to just softly open.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're
That's good.
putting some castings out, and people are starting to submit auditions for things to hit the ground running. I know I've seen some I put some people on tape for Stranger Things. That shoots in Atlanta, so
Very cool.
they should open that.
I'd love to be on that show.
Yeah, man. And then Tyler Perry's stuff. He owns his own studio.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so he's opening back
so
up.
he's opening some stuff back up, and Raven Drummer's his casting director. She's wonderful. So there's it's softly it's starting to creep out there. So
Cool.
we'll see.
Who's going to shoot the short you're doing?
Oh, I'll have Joe do it.
Okay,
Joe's already
okay,
on
cool.
board. He and Emily are already on board, and
Awesome.
it's I'm not in it. It's all high school. You know, it's real high school oriented.
So you just wrote it and you're producing it?
Yeah,
Cool.
right. Produced and directed.
awesome.
Yeah, and I've known Bailey since I've probably known Bailey since she was like 12 or something crazy
Wow.
like that. So I already know what I get to work with, you know.
Yeah.
So it'll be seamless once we get in there, because I'll just go, here's what you say and make it beautiful, and she'll
Yeah.
go, okay, and then she'll do it, and it'll be great, and I'll be cut.
Nice. When's have you guys planned a shoot date yet, or are you waiting?
We're looking at somewhere around mid-June.
Okay.
If we can, the locations will be the tough part. A couple of them really need to happen in schools. So it's going to have to, work around, I mean, I've got several friends that are teachers and run schools and whatnot, but it'll be how they feel about bringing in, 30 or 40 people into their school to
Right.
shoot a film, So that's where that test kit you brought up earlier might really come in handy.
That's true. Yeah. What's your plan with the film? Is it just like a trailer almost, or a proof of concept for another, like a larger film, or?
Honestly, it's just art.
Okay.
This one's strictly, it's just art.
So
I
film
think
festivals maybe?
Yeah, I'll probably send it to a
Cool.
few film festivals and just share it. You
Nice.
know, I just think that it's, I think it should be beautiful and heartbreaking when we're done with it. And it's just to put out there.
I think there's a good place for, or a big market for short films now too. I mean, you've seen a lot of series that are made out of shorts.
Yeah. And now we got Quibi coming up. Or is that what it's called?
I don't know.
It's like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't. I've heard the name. But
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
sounds
sure.
familiar.
But there's like a bajillion places you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's an app that's
okay.
coming out where it's, people are making content and they pick it up and it comes down and it's like little vignette pieces.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can catch stuff
So
that's
just watch
film.
shorts on your phone.
Yeah, you can sit there and watch shorts on your phone.
What
in
we
your
do anyway.
shorts.
Yeah.
Watching shorts in
shorts
your
in your
shorts.
Oh.
That's cool. Well, Pat, do you want to tell everyone how they can follow you and anything you want to promote while you're
Sure.
here?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Pat_Dortch_actor, or you can follow Limbo at limboseries. What else? Oh, the Actors Lab. You can always
Yeah.
check me out at the Actors
Always.
Lab, theactorslab.com, and that's also on Instagram at the Actors Lab.
That's in Charlotte, exclusively in North Carolina, or is there another spot as well?
Charlotte is the only city in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's also in
Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and Portland, Oregon.
Portland. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to learn how to act, call
Yeah.
Pat or JD or
Hit me
Christina.
up.
Yeah. Or Brian Pierce.
Yeah, Brian Pierce.
Yeah. And anything else?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. No, I don't think so.
So, okay, cool. Well, everybody follow Pat on Instagram and check out the Actors Lab. And if you enjoyed the episode, then please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Later,
you.
guys.
Thank you.